91 days. That's how long we have until the 2026 FIFA World Cup kicks off in North America. The largest football tournament in history, spanning 3 countries, 16 cities, and 48 nations. But right now, one of those nations may not show up, and the reason why cuts far deeper than football. To understand what's happening, we need to rewind to February 28th, 2026. That is the day President Donald Trump announced what he called major combat operations, a joint U.S.-Israeli military campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The strikes were swift, they were devastating, and within days, they had done something that fundamentally changed the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. They killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader for over 3 decades, in airstrikes on Tehran. Let that sink in for a moment. The man who had led Iran since 1989, the spiritual and political authority over 90 million people, gone, killed in an American airstrike. Iran responded with waves of missiles and drones targeting Israel, U.S. military bases across the region, and Gulf nations. The conflict is ongoing. Thousands of Iranian civilians have died. The country is, by any definition, at war. And yet, in less than 100 days, Iran was scheduled to play Belgium, New Zealand, and Egypt in Group G of the FIFA World Cup, in Los Angeles and Seattle, on American soil. On March 11th, Iran's Minister of Sport and Youth, Ahmad Donyamali, made it official. Speaking on state television, he said, "Given that this corrupt government has assassinated our leader and created extreme insecurity, we cannot participate in the World Cup. The players have no safety, and the conditions for participation simply do not exist." He went further. He said Iran was effectively forced into 2 wars in less than a year, that thousands of compatriots were killed, and that if the host country had been anyone other than the United States, the international community would have stripped them of hosting rights entirely. That last point is a direct accusation, one that will not go unnoticed. So as of today, Iran is out. Or at least, that's what their government is saying. But nothing in this story is straightforward. Here is where the story gets more complicated, and frankly, more revealing of how geopolitics actually works. In the days leading up to Iran's announcement, President Trump gave 3 separate contradictory statements about Iran's participation. First, he told Politico he really did not care whether Iran played. Then, after a meeting with FIFA President Gianni Infantino, Trump said the Iranian team was welcome to compete. Infantino echoed this publicly, saying Trump had been supportive and that, in his words, football unites the world. Then, just 24 hours later, Trump posted on Truth Social, saying that while Iran was technically welcome, he did not consider it appropriate for them to be there, citing, vaguely, concerns about life and safety. The White House has not explained what that means. Whose life? Whose safety? The Iranian players? American spectators? No clarification has been offered. What we are left with is a portrait of deliberate ambiguity. Trump did not ban Iran. That would have created an enormous diplomatic crisis with FIFA, an organization that explicitly prohibits political interference in football. Banning Iran outright could have jeopardized the entire tournament's legitimacy, triggered legal challenges, and created an international incident. Instead, the message was softer. You're welcome, but we don't really want you here. It's a message calculated to push Iran toward withdrawing on their own terms, while giving the United States plausible deniability. Whether that interpretation is correct, we cannot say with certainty. But the pattern of mixed signals, followed by Iran's own withdrawal announcement, is, at minimum, worth examining closely. So what happens next from a footballing standpoint? FIFA's regulations allow the governing body significant discretionary power when a team withdraws. But the rule book is vague on specifics, and there is no modern precedent for a team pulling out this close to a World Cup. The last comparable situation was Yugoslavia at Euro 1992, kicked out due to UN sanctions, replaced by Denmark 10 days before the tournament. Denmark, remarkably, went on to win. Now, Iran faces serious consequences if their withdrawal becomes official. First, a potential long-term ban from all FIFA-sanctioned tournaments, including future World Cups and Asian Cups. Second, a substantial financial penalty. FIFA's regulations allow for fines ranging from 275,000 to 555,000 euros. Third, Iran's Football Federation would be required to reimburse FIFA for all preparation funds and competition-related contributions already received. These are rules designed to make withdrawal economically painful. But given that Iran is currently at war with the host nation of the tournament, those fines may feel somewhat abstract. The replacement question is where things get geopolitically interesting again. FIFA's first likely option is Iraq. Iraq is currently playing an intercontinental playoff, scheduled for March 31st in Monterrey, Mexico, against either Bolivia or Suriname. If Iraq wins, they qualify for the World Cup regardless. If they lose, they become the frontrunners to step in for Iran as the next best Asian qualifier. But there's a catch. Iraq's airspace is closed until April 1st due to the war. Coach Graham Arnold has already asked FIFA to delay the playoff. Mexico, which is hosting the match, doesn't have an embassy in Iraq, complicating visa logistics for the squad. This is a domino effect. The war in Iran is not just disrupting Iran's participation, it's creating logistical chaos across the entire region. If Iraq qualifies and Iran withdraws, the next Asian nation in line would be the United Arab Emirates, the team Iraq narrowly beat in qualifying. There is also a reported suggestion that FIFA is considering inviting Italy to fill the slot. Italy failed to qualify through UEFA, which would make their inclusion deeply controversial. It would be a significant departure from established precedent and would almost certainly face pushback from the Asian Football Confederation. As of now, FIFA says it is monitoring the situation and no final decision has been made. In plain terms, they are waiting to see how the war develops before acting. For a moment, let's step back from the geopolitics and the FIFA regulations. Because behind all of this are footballers. Iranian players who have spent years working toward this tournament, who qualified through grueling Asian Cup campaigns, who, in many cases, play their club football in Europe, far from the conflict zone, but not far from the weight of what it means to represent their country right now. Many of them are watching their nation at war with the country that is hosting the tournament they qualified for. Iranian Americans in Seattle, where Iran was due to play Egypt, are themselves divided. Some are heartbroken for the athletes. Others, particularly those who fled the Islamic Republic, have argued that FIFA itself should have banned Iran's team entirely, citing the regime's own record of human rights abuses. This is the complexity that purely geopolitical analysis often flattens. There is no unified Iranian position here. There are millions of people with deeply divergent views on what the right outcome even looks like. Zoom out further, and this story raises a question that transcends football. Should sport and politics be separated at all? FIFA has long maintained the principle of political neutrality. No governments should interfere with football. No political symbols on pitches. No discriminatory chants. The World Cup, in theory, belongs to the world, not to any one nation's foreign policy. But the 2026 World Cup is being hosted by a country that is currently at war with one of the participating nations. The host nation's president is issuing public statements, however contradictory, about whether that nation's team should attend. That is, by any reasonable definition, political interference in football. And it is coming from the top. FIFA's silence on this specific point, its willingness to wait and monitor rather than make a principled statement, tells you something about the limits of its neutrality doctrine when the host nation is the most powerful country on earth. Here is where we stand today. Iran has announced it will not participate in the 2026 World Cup. Their government cites the death of their Supreme Leader, the ongoing war with the United States, and the impossibility of ensuring player safety on American soil. FIFA has not yet made a formal ruling. Iraq or the UAE are the most likely replacements. Italy remains a controversial wildcard option. Trump's messaging has been contradictory, formally welcoming, practically discouraging, in a way that achieves political outcomes without triggering formal diplomatic consequences. And 91 days from now, the biggest sporting event in human history will begin, with or without Iran. What this episode reveals is something we already knew but rarely say out loud. Football does not exist outside of history. It does not exist outside of power. And when the world is at war, the beautiful game reflects that, whether we want it to or not. I'm Get. This has been Get. If you found this analysis useful, subscribe and leave a comment below. I want to know what you think should happen with Iran's spot. Should FIFA hold it open? Replace the team? And does any of this change how you'll watch the tournament this summer? I'll see you in the next one.